There are 21 antique items that could be illegal to sell, and one may be in a desk drawer, above the wardrobe, or inside a cabinet inherited from somebody who travelled before paperwork followed every object. Not only obvious contraband, I mean a feathered hat, carved whale tooth, deactivated pistol, medal, and mounted animal called Victorian. Every headline price tonight comes from a real auction sale. We start with objects worth hundreds or low thousands and climb, item by item, to a seven-figure dispute. Number 1 is a 70-million-year-old Tarbosaurus beta skeleton offered by Heritage in New York for $1,052,500. Mongolia said it was state property. Prosecutors said its import papers described rough fossil reptiles worth $15,000 and named Great Britain as the origin. The skeleton was seized, the dealer pleaded guilty, and it returned to Mongolia. I will explain how the auction failed to provide clean title. By the end, you will know what to identify, document, and check before a sensitive antique is listed, moved, or posted. Most antiques can be owned and sold lawfully, but material, species, origin, age, provenance, destination, and the exact transaction can trigger different rules. I'm Malcolm Ashby, an auctioneer and valuer for 40 years. This is a stop and checklist, not personal legal advice. Now, before we carry on, let me say one thing. The support my channel has had lately has been overwhelming, and I mean that. So here's what I've decided. I'm not putting ads on these videos. You've given me your time and I won't have it interrupted. If you'd like to support my channel, there's one way. You can scan the code on screen now with your phone's camera to get my book. I've put everything I know into one book, the Household and Collectibles Price Guide, 2027 edition. Every common item you might own, how to value it, and what it actually sells for. It even tells you where and how to sell it, who buys it, what they'll pay, and which route to take for which object. To get it, and everything I know, it's over at my website, malcolmashby.com. That's MALCOLMASHBY.com. Right, let's carry on. Before the countdown, write down 6 facts about any doubtful object. What it is made from, where it was found, when it entered the family, which country it came from, where the proposed buyer lives, and how it would travel. Those facts determine the rules. An item can be lawful to keep, but unlawful to advertise. It can be lawful to sell within one country, but prohibited from export. A permit can attach to one named object and one transaction rather than to every similar item. Platform policy can also be stricter than law. None of that means the object is worthless. It means value cannot be separated from a lawful route to market. Official wildlife, firearms, cultural property, and product safety agencies should outrank an anonymous collector's forum. Keep screenshots or copies of current guidance with your file, because regulations and protected species lists change. And if a regulator tells you not to move an object, leave it where it is until you receive proper instructions. Number 21, recalled vintage nursery products. An old cradle, toy chest, or folding high chair may have attractive decoration and modest decorative value, but a recall can make resale unlawful in the United States. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says it is illegal to sell or even offer a recalled product online or in person. That applies to a private second-hand seller, not only a shop. Your test is the model and recall database. Photograph every label, date code, latch and hinge, then search the official CPSC recall site before listing. Automatic lock storage chests have trapped children. Drop-side cribs and unstable nursery furniture have also been subject to stringent rules. "It was safe for my children" is not a defense and not evidence. Do not describe a recalled cradle as decor to evade a rule if a buyer could use it as intended. In Britain, Australia, and elsewhere, consult the local product safety regulator because standards and bans differ. A $100 sale is not worth passing a known hazard to another family. If the official remedy can be completed, document it. If not, follow the regulator's disposal advice rather than giving the item away. Number 20. Antique patent medicines and poisons with contents. Collectors buy attractive apothecary bottles, but the liquid, powder, or tablets inside can turn packaging into regulated hazardous material. Opium preparations, mercury compounds, arsenic, strychnine, and obsolete pesticides may fall under controlled drug, poison, hazardous waste, or shipping rules. Your test is to read the label without opening the closure, photograph ingredients, pharmacist, town, warning words, and seal. Do not taste, sniff, pour down a drain, or post an unidentified bottle. Never advertise the medicinal contents as usable. In many cases, the lawful route is for a hazardous waste professional to remove the contents while the historic container is retained, but get local advice before altering a sealed collectible. Shipping companies prohibit or restrict substances that an auction platform may casually allow you to list. The bottle itself may be worth tens or hundreds, occasionally more for a rare maker. The dangerous contents do not create bonus value. A sale becomes a poor bargain when the parcel leaks or crosses a controlled drug boundary. Start with your environmental or medicines regulator, not a bidding page. Number 19. Radium dial watches, clocks and instruments. That warm cream-colored paint may contain radium-226, used so military and civilian dials would glow without electricity. Intact single watches are often lawfully possessed in the United States under exemptions, but repair, accumulation, transfer, and disposal can involve federal or state radiation rules. A damaged dial is a different risk. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission recorded an antique 8-day watch with missing glass and removable radioactive contamination. It was wrapped, secured, and disposed of as radioactive waste. Your test is condition, not a home Geiger counter performance. Do not open the case, brush the numerals, or blow dust away. Radium remains radioactive long after the glow fades. Keep children away. Place a damaged piece in a stable, closed container without disturbing it, and contact the relevant radiation authority. In the United States, rules can differ in agreement states. In Britain, contact the environmental regulator. A rare military watch may be worth thousands, but no auction estimate justifies spreading luminous paint across a workbench. Tell the auctioneer exactly what it is before shipping. Number 18. Old fire extinguishers containing halon. Brass and chrome extinguishers look decorative, and aviation examples attract collectors. Halon agents are ozone-depleting substances whose production and handling are controlled. The legal answer depends on the agent, country, whether the cylinder is charged, and the proposed use. Your test is the label and pressure gauge. Look for halon 1211, 1301, or another chemical designation. Do not pull the pin, discharge the cylinder, or ship it as ordinary post. A pressurized extinguisher can also fall under dangerous goods transport rules, even when the agent itself may be transferred. In the United States, consult EPA guidance and a certified halon recycler. In the UK, consult F-gas and ozone-depleting substance rules. Some critical uses and reclaimed halon channels remain lawful, while casual release is not. The empty decorative shell may be saleable after certified decommissioning, but obtain paperwork. Never drill a cylinder you assume is empty. A few $100s of industrial nostalgia is not worth an uncontrolled discharge or an injured courier. Number 17. Antique animal traps and poisoned arrows. A 19th century gin trap, spring trap, or ethnographic arrow may be collectible, but possession, sale, setting, and shipping are separate legal questions. Some jurisdictions prohibit particular trap types or regulate them as weapons. Arrow tips may retain curae, plant toxins, or degraded animal poison. Your test is to handle the shaft, not the point, and assume any old residue is hazardous. Do not demonstrate a trap by arming it in a crowded room. Lock the mechanism, photograph maker marks, and ask a specialist whether the design is prohibited where buyer and seller live. Ethnographic objects may also require cultural property provenance and CITES checks if they contain feathers, ivory, or animal hide. A legal decorative sale in one country may become an unlawful import in another. Describe materials honestly. Bone is not a safe substitute word when you suspect ivory. The monetary level here may be hundreds or low thousands, but the liabilities travel with the object. One item can trigger wildlife, weapons, and dangerous goods rules at once. Number 16. Nazi-era medals, uniforms, and symbols. Ownership is not uniformly prohibited worldwide, but display and trade laws vary sharply. Germany and Austria restrict use of unconstitutional organization symbols, with exceptions for art, scholarship, teaching, and historical reporting. Marketplaces may impose broader bans than criminal law. France and other countries have their own rules. Your test is the destination, platform, and purpose, not merely the age. Do not assume covering a swastika in the photograph makes an export lawful. Ask a specialist auctioneer accustomed to the buyer's jurisdiction and retain service records establishing authenticity. Human remains, looted property, and concentration camp material raise further ethical and legal issues. In Britain and the United States, many genuine militaria items may be sold, but fraud, stolen government property rules, and platform conditions still apply. Values run from modest to many thousands, depending on rarity and provenance. Historical interest does not create a universal exemption, and a lawful local possession does not guarantee lawful advertising across a border. There is another distinction people miss. Auction acceptance is not government clearance. An auctioneer may give a condition report and estimate, but the consignor still warrants title and may remain responsible for export permits, wildlife declarations, or hazardous contents. Ask in writing who will obtain which license, what happens if permission is refused, and whether the item can be returned lawfully. Do not ship first and ask later. Customs declarations require an accurate description, origin, and value. Calling an item old ornament may feel convenient, but vagueness can look like concealment when the parcel contains rhino horn, a firearm component, or archaeological material. If the object was inherited, that proves how you acquired it. It does not automatically prove how an earlier owner acquired or exported it. Build the history backwards from the present with names, dates, and documents. A clean chain is worth money because it gives the next owner confidence and protects everyone involved in the transaction. Quick word. If you've got any old things at home, don't do anything with them yet, not till you know what they're worth. My full price guide, every common item you might own and what it sells for, is over at my website malcolmashby.com. That's MALCOLM Ashby.com. Or scan the code on your screen. Now back to it. Number 15. Medals whose sale is specifically restricted. Most military medals can be bought and sold, but not every decoration follows the same rule. In the United States, unauthorized sale, purchase, or barter of a Medal of Honor is prohibited under federal law. Other countries control official insignia or state awards differently. Your test is exact identification. Do not list a star-shaped medal as probably Medal of Honor for retention. Photograph the ribbon, suspension, reverse, edge naming, case, and accompanying citation, then contact a recognized medal specialist or the issuing authority. Stolen medals remain stolen property, however old they are. Families should also check whether an award was officially issued, a replacement, a film prop, or a collector copy. A gallantry group with documented recipient can reach tens of thousands at a lawful specialist auction, but the protected American medal requires a different route. Donation to an appropriate institution may be available. The law attaches to the precise award, not to the seller's good intentions. Number 14. Deactivated firearms. It cannot fire is not a universal legal category. Standards for deactivation have changed, and a weapon certified under an old system may need additional work, proof marks, or documentation before sale or transfer. In the UK, current Home Office and proof house requirements matter. In the United States, ATF classification depends on whether the receiver has been destroyed to the required standard. Your test is to leave the mechanism alone and find the certificate, proof marks, and serial number. Do not attempt home deactivation with a drill or weld. Do not post a receiver or frame as scrap metal. Auctioneers who handle arms can tell you whether the item must move through a licensed dealer or approved proof route. Film props and replicas may also be regulated differently from antiques. Values can be thousands, particularly for rare military models, but a certificate from 1970 is evidence to examine, not automatic permission for a 2026 transaction. Check seller, buyer, transit countries and carrier rules before the listing appears. Number 13. Antique firearms that are not legally antique. In the United States, ATF explains that qualifying antique firearms are generally outside the Gun Control Act, but the statutory definition turns on manufacture date, ignition system, and ammunition. A gun that looks Victorian may still use conventional fixed ammunition and fall inside regulation. State and local laws can be stricter. Britain, Australia, and Canada use different categories and licensing systems. Your test is exact make, model, serial number, caliber, and action. Do not rely on family date. Do not clean a loaded gun or test whether it works. Point it in a safe direction, leave ammunition separate, and contact a licensed firearms specialist. ATF also distinguishes estate auctions from consignment auctions in ways that affect who needs a license and where transfer occurs. A rare Colt or Winchester can sell for tens or hundreds of thousands through the correct channel. The same object offered casually to an ineligible buyer can become evidence. Antique is an art market adjective. Legal antique is a definition. Number 12. Live ammunition, grenades and ordnance. Veterans brought home shells, grenades, detonators, and battlefield souvenirs that later appear in desk drawers. Never assume a drilled hole means inert. Explosive ordnance can retain detonators or unstable filler after a century. Your test is no test at all. Do not shake, unscrew, magnet test, X-ray privately, or transport a suspect device to the police station. Clear the area and call local police or bomb disposal guidance from where it sits. Inert ordnance can still be restricted in sale, export and mail because appearance, components or markings trigger weapons and carrier policies. Collectible ammunition may require a licensed route depending on jurisdiction. Proven inert examples with correct documentation can be valuable, but homemade certificates are worthless. The object may only be a $50 shell case, yet the risk is fatal. This is the category where preserving patina is not the first priority. People are. Number 11. Human remains and anatomical specimens. Skulls, bones, shrunken heads, and preserved medical specimens have appeared in old teaching collections and private cabinets. Law differs profoundly by jurisdiction, age, origin, and intended use. The UK Human Tissue Authority says public display of material from a person who died less than 100 years ago requires licensed premises in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and its policy stresses consent, dignity, and lawful provenance. Sale itself is not answered by one blanket rule, and imported or indigenous remains may engage additional law. Your test is not to list a skull as a Halloween curiosity. Secure it respectfully, do not clean or photograph sensationally, and contact police, a coroner, the Human Tissue Authority, or an appropriate museum advisor. In the United States, state laws and ANAPRA-related rules may apply. Provenance must establish whether an item was lawfully held. No auction price outranks the possibility that these are a missing person or an ancestor whose community seeks return. If a regulated object arrives in a deceased estate, the executor should create an incident-free paper trail immediately. Record the room and container where it was found, photograph accompanying labels without rearranging them, and note who had access. Do not invite several dealers to remove the item for informal opinions. For a weapon or suspected explosive, use the police or licensed specialist. For wildlife material, ask the CETIS Management Authority. For human material or cultural objects, contact the appropriate public body or community. These calls do not automatically mean confiscation, they establish the correct process. evaluation can follow once safety and legal status are understood. Executors often feel pressure to clear a property quickly, but urgency is not a defense for unlawful transfer. A simple log with dates, names, and advice received protects the estate and prevents an important label or certificate being separated from the object. Number 10. Native American funerary and sacred objects. Not every indigenous artwork is prohibited property, and tribal artists lawfully sell an enormous range of work. The danger lies in human remains, funerary objects, sacred objects, and objects of cultural patrimony obtained or exported contrary to law. The U.S. Department of the Interior explains that NAGPRA establishes criminal penalties for trafficking in cultural items obtained in violation of the law, while the STOP Act addresses prohibited export and international repatriation. Your test is tribal identification and documented chain of custody. Do not invent a tribe from a decorative motif. Do not remove feathers or medicine contents to make an object easier to post. Contact the relevant tribe, interior resources, and a specialist institution before offering. An old auction receipt is useful but may not prove the original transfer was lawful. Values for important ceremonial objects can reach tens or hundreds of thousands in markets that accept them. That financial fact makes due diligence more urgent, not less. A respectful return may be the proper outcome. Number 9. Feathered hats, fans, and Victorian bird displays. In the United States, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act protects feathers and other parts of native migratory birds, and the Fish and Wildlife Service states there is no general exemption simply because a feather was molted, found, or old. Its seller fact sheet warns that taxidermied migratory birds, feathers, and parts are generally prohibited from sale with limited exceptions. Eagle material has additional protection. Your test is species identification before advertising. Do not write antique feathers, therefore legal. Photograph color, pattern, and construction without plucking a sample. Domestic chicken, turkey, and certain non-native species may be outside those federal prohibitions, while an egret, owl, or hawk may not be. UK and Australian wildlife laws differ, and CITES can control international movement. A magnificent plume hat may be worth thousands as fashion history, but unsaleable through an ordinary interstate route. Ask the Wildlife Authority or use a specialist familiar with exemptions and permits. The date of the hat does not change the species of the bird. Number 8. Taxidermy from protected species. Leopard rugs, tiger skins, polar bears, primates, and old mounted raptors turn up in country houses. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says interstate or international sale of endangered or threatened U.S. species is generally barred without permits, and state law may be stricter. CITES paperwork governs many international transactions. In Britain, commercial use of Annex A specimens generally requires the appropriate certificate. Your test is species, age, origin, and documentation. Look for old import permits, taxidermist labels, Article 10 certificates, pre-convention evidence, and microchip or tag numbers. Do not detach claws, teeth, or head to sell separately. Fragmentation can worsen legal and ethical problems. Never post a mystery cat skin to an overseas buyer. Some pre-convention specimens can be lawfully traded with the right papers, others cannot. A rare Victorian mount might carry a 5-figure auction estimate, yet without legal provenance, it may have no lawful commercial route. Ownership, domestic sale, and export are 3 different questions. Number 7. Coral, giant clam, and shell jewelry. Red coral necklaces, giant clam shell carvings, and nautilus-mounted cups can look harmless because they came from the sea rather than an elephant. CITES lists numerous marine species, and national rules can restrict harvest, sale, import, or export. Your test is material identification. Coral-colored is not the same as coral, and white shell may be tridacna giant clam rather than ivory. Keep purchase receipts and old customs papers. Do not bleach, grind, or cut an inherited piece to obtain a sample. A gemological or natural history specialist can often identify structure under magnification. Antique status may support a pre-convention permit, but age must be evidenced. Rules changed over time and differ among species. High-quality coral jewelry can be worth tens of thousands. A Renaissance Nautilus cup can be worth far more. Before shipping, check both the exporting and importing authority. A lawful domestic auction can still produce an unlawful parcel at the border. Number 6. Tortoiseshell accessories. Combs, spectacles, boxes and inlaid furniture may contain shell from hawksbill sea turtles, a species subject to the strictest CITES controls. The mottled amber material is widely imitated in horn and early plastic, so identification comes first. Your test is to examine the surface under magnification and transmitted light, then ask a specialist rather than applying a hot needle. Burning a protected material is not a clever test. In the United States, federal and state wildlife laws can prohibit interstate or international sale. In the UK, an Article 10 or other certificate may be required for commercial use depending on age and circumstances. Do not call it faux merely to get past a platform filter. Keep a fitted set together, but expect each transaction route to be checked. Fine PK combs and boxes can be worth thousands. The price does not legalize the material. Paperwork and applicable exemptions do. At this stage, learn the 4 documents that repeatedly matter. Provenance records, who owned the object and when. An export license proves a source country authorized departure at a particular time. An import declaration records entry and description. A commercial use or wildlife certificate addresses the proposed dealing under a specific regime. One does not automatically replace another. A 1930 auction catalogue may establish age and ownership, but not permission for a 2026 export. A modern appraisal may identify ivory, but not grant an exemption. Scan every document in color, keep the original flat, and record which object its numbers match. Do not use one certificate to advertise a pair unless it actually covers the pair. If a seller says the papers were lost years ago, value the risk as well as the object. At the top end, buyers pay for confidence, and missing lawful provenance can reduce a 6-figure rarity to an object that cannot be traded. Number 5. Scrimshaw and whale ivory. A carved whale tooth with a sailing ship can bring 5 figures when genuine, historic, and well documented. It can also be illegal to sell or export. Species matters. Sperm whale, narwhal, walrus, and modern synthetic copies fall under different laws. The UK expanded its Ivory Act regime to cover ivory from hippopotamus, killer whale, narwhal, and sperm whale, requiring an exemption for dealing. US marine mammal and endangered species rules are complex and can differ for Alaska native handicrafts. Your test is to stop at the word tooth. Photograph the base, growth structure, carving, and provenance. Do not polish away ink or drill for testing. Establish age with a specialist and contact the Wildlife Authority before advertising. A family story that a sailor carved it in 1840 is a lead, not legal proof. International shipment adds CITES requirements even where a domestic exception exists. The right old tooth may be valuable, but the wrong transaction can lead to seizure. Number 4. Elephant ivory antiques. In the UK, dealing in elephant ivory and, since the 2025 expansion, several other listed ivory species is prohibited unless the item qualifies and is registered or certified under an exemption. Official guidance says dealing includes advertising, arranging, buying, selling, hiring, and certain imports or exports. Penalties can reach a large fine or imprisonment. Ownership for personal use is different from dealing. In the United States, federal rules allow only limited pathways and state bans may be stricter. Your test is material percentage, manufacture date, artistic significance, provenance, and jurisdiction. A pre-1918 portrait miniature with a thin ivory support may fit a different exemption from a solid carving. Do not list bovine bone unless verified. Do not remove ivory keys from a piano to create a percentage calculation without advice. Photograph the whole object, marks, and where ivory appears. Important works can be worth tens or hundreds of thousands in a lawful exempt market. raw tusk is not transformed into lawful merchandise by being called antique. Number 3. Rhinoceros horn cups and carvings. Chinese libation cups carved from rhino horn have sold for hundreds of thousands, and that value helped fuel unlawful trafficking. Cities places rhinoceros material under severe control. Domestic laws can prohibit sale and export despite age claims. U.S. Prosecutions have involved auction house purchases and attempted exports of antique rhino horn objects. Your test is to avoid sampling, grinding, or burning. Horn has a characteristic fibrous structure, but professional identification and provenance are essential. Contact the Wildlife Authority and a specialist auctioneer before moving it across a state or border. Do not separate a carved cup from an old invoice, customs permit, or collection catalogue. A pre-convention history may support a permitted route in some jurisdictions, while another country may prohibit the same sale. Never agree to misdescribe it as resin or buffalo horn. At this level, the paper trail is part of the object, and a false customs declaration can turn a collector into a defendant. Number 2. Looted antiquities and smuggled cultural property. A beautiful object does not acquire clean title merely by passing through respectable hands. UNESCO's 1970 convention created an international framework against illicit import, export, and transfer, while national ownership and export laws determine specific cases. U.S. authorities have forfeited smuggled Egyptian statues, Iraqi tablets, and Southeast Asian sculpture after false provenance or customs declarations were exposed. Your test is provenance before 1970 and after it. Dated invoices, collection catalogues, export licenses, excavation records, and customs entries. Search stolen art databases and ask whether the source country claims undiscovered antiquities as state property. From an old European collection is not enough without dates and names. Do not create a false history by repeating an unsupported dealer note. Important antiquities can reach 6 figures, yet lawful sale may be impossible if export was illegal or title stolen. A buyer can lose both object and purchase price. At number 1, that exact problem reached a documented 7-figure auction. And number 1. The crown jewel is not a jewel at all. It is a 70-million-year-old Tarbosaurus buttar skeleton that Heritage Auctions offered in New York in May 2012. The catalogue estimate was $950,000 to $1.5 million. The winning price was $1,052,500, worth $1,052,500. Except the sale could not lawfully deliver what the bidder thought had been bought. Mongolia had declared dinosaur fossils found within its borders state property and prohibited their export since 1924. Paleontologists identified Tarbosaurus buttar as a dinosaur known from Mongolia. Before the New York auction, Mongolia obtained a temporary restraining order seeking to stop the sale and transfer. The auction proceeded, but the dispute did not end at the rostrum. United States prosecutors alleged that import documents described the skeleton as assorted rough fossil reptiles and listed a value of $15,000 despite the $1 million estimate and result. They also alleged the country of origin was recorded as Great Britain. The skeleton was seized and forfeited. The dealer, Eric Prokopi, later pleaded guilty in a wider fossil smuggling case, and the dinosaur was returned to Mongolia. Your test is locality and export paper. Fossils found lawfully on private land in countries such as the United States may be tradable. Fossils from Mongolia, China, Brazil, and other nations can be state property or subject to export prohibitions. Rock type, species, and preparation style can reveal origin, but they do not replace licenses. Keep quarry records, landowner agreements, customs declarations, and every transfer invoice. Do not invent a country of origin to ease shipping. The buyer bid more than $1 million and still did not receive clean title. That is why number 1 belongs here. Price, famous auction house, and public bidding did not cure an unlawful export. Provenance is not polite background information. Sometimes it is the difference between owning a museum specimen and surrendering it to federal agents. These rules are jurisdiction specific and change. The correct question is not simply, can I own it? Ask separately whether you may possess, advertise, sell domestically, sell across a state line, export, import and ship it. Each answer can differ. Consult the named regulator or a lawyer for the actual transaction. Before listing, photograph the item and all papers, identify material and species, record marks and never disguise contents on a customs form. A reputable specialist will not object to a legal check. Anyone urging you to call ivory bone, a firearm metal decor or a fossil stone is warning you about themselves. Tell me in the comments which category surprised you, but do not post identifying details of a dangerous or sensitive object. Subscribe as well, because the next list returns to finds you can actively seek in thrift shops. Here, the best result may be not a sale, but a safe, lawful decision. If anything today looked familiar, have a proper look before you sell a single thing. Everything's in my price guide over at malcolmashby.com, or scan the code on your screen. I'll leave it up for you.